Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Well, okay, that is not right. That is, where is my hype tracks? There we go. It is Thursday. We do have some data coming out here really soon, so let's try and be on the ball this time. We did have some overnight movement, though, we want to check up on, and some rollovers for our currencies. Dum 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 dum. So, treasuries, big move up and big move down yesterday, but so I guess we're unchanged in the end, but I'd say rates higher, and we are above 4% this morning. And for the S&P 500, the little bit of a decline yesterday, but then huge ramp into the close with the 0-day to expiration options just dominating and pushing and crazy stuff. So elsewhere, gold, silver kind of doing their thing. Oil, okay. Copper up a little bit from yesterday. The dollar is higher. Into Bitcoin continues to just slowly, sadly drop off. So that's where we're at. We got some numbers coming out here. In about a minute, we got U.S. initial jobless claims. We're looking for a reading of 195,000 versus a previous reading of 190, with the continued jobless claims at 1.66 million. Then at the top of the hour, we have Fed's bar. Also note that we've got a 30-year auction today. You know, yesterday I didn't mention anything about the Treasury, the 10-year, but there was like a big drop in the 10-year when that auction happened. So, and actually it was kind of telling us, kind of warning us about that. So yeah, that's where we at. I don't know if this, if they're going to move too much off of the continued jobless claims, but let's see what they do. Yeah.
Ten seconds.
All right, here we go. Ooh. Okay, I'm still waiting on the number here.
$211K, $211K. That is higher than the forecast of $195K. Continuing claims at 1.718 million, 1.18 million.
Okay, so what I'm hearing on the news squawk is not what I'm seeing on my screen.
Following that data.
It says 190, but I'm actually hearing 211. I think 211 is correct. Yes, 211 is correct. So higher. Well, so now what's with that? Okay, higher than expected. Oh my gosh, they're trying to fix it, and they changed the previous, not the current. That's funny. Oh my gosh. Okay, so 211 is a little bit higher than expected, and we moved about 2 basis points on that. And the continued jobless claims was a little bit higher. So, this is going to be interesting. I mean, tomorrow is the big day with the non-farms, right? I wonder what this means for follow through on the non-farms. Well, The spread didn't move too much. They all just kind of moved together. S&P 500 seemed to like that too, but it at least, well, I don't know. So the treasuries, they pulled back decently there, and now they're continuing through. I don't think that I have a very good edge here, so I'm going to put the safety back on and watch it here for a little bit. I'm kind of tempted to fade this, but I don't know. The market has been kind of hard because yesterday we got totally screwed. We had 2 okay trades and the timing was just bad, right? But my overall feeling was that rates were going to go back to 4%, and they did. And it was all the way from like 392 at one point. So there was like an $80 trade in there if somebody, you know, if you caught the right spot. But the market makers were just kind of like preventing them from doing what they wanted to do for some reason, right? So we're in a period where it seems like volatility is really high, but it's contracting. Like the market makers are clamping down on it, which is a little odd to me. I'm not quite sure how to adjust to that yet, you know, because what's ending up happening is when we do get moves, they're really big, quick moves, but they're very brief, and that makes them very difficult to take advantage of. So I'm kind of thinking though, well, if I was going to do market making here, wouldn't the call be to fade this? I don't know. Seems like the volume is still coming in long for the moment. Maybe it's moderating. Well, while we're kind of checking that out, let's go down through the news and Twitter, see what people are saying. Mohammed A. El Arian, this is not a comfortable position to be in, especially after the yield roller coaster of the last 5 weeks. The hope is that the forthcoming jobs and CPI data will make a clear case for most. Oh, this was part 2 of what the first tweet was. While I doubt this was Fed Chair Powell's intention, most people I listen to on the economy and markets are convinced after the 2-day congressional testimony that the next rate decision, namely between 25 and 50 basis points, is his even more than normal. In other words, I think El Arian is saying that whatever he decides, the rest of them will go along with it.
We posted out the weekly jobless claims report.
So I'm reading this interaction between Jim Iorio and Bob Iacino. Jim says, Bobby is dead wrong about stopping the Fed bashing. I like the Fed bashing. I have so few rewarding hobbies. Otherwise, he's right. Listen, Jim, if you want to come to Salt Lake, I would teach you how to ski. All right. Anyways, Bob says, here's a simple way of putting it. Bashing the Fed is like telling your server at Brant's of Palatine, I have no clue where that is, that you want your burger with no onions, but the owner says no substitutions, so you bash your server. Blame Congress. I agree with him. The Federal Reserve, I mean, look, they make mistakes, sure, but they're just reacting to what is happening because of Congress. Congress is the one with the real power to change things. It's really frightening to me how easily the Democrat base falls for their politicians' tricks when, to distract them from their policy. They really think that it was all corporations. All of Congress's policies were great. They didn't do anything, and it was all those evil corporations raising prices. That's what caused it all. And because like, here's the thing: is the argument is, did corporations raise prices because of the economic environment that they were in, or just because they were greedy? Right? It's like a chicken and egg problem. Which came first? Well, I'll tell you which came first. The Congress changed the rules first, and then companies responded. So how can you conclude that it was just all of the companies arbitrarily deciding to raise prices for no reason? You know? Okay. So, by Wall Street Jesus, repeating what is said by JP Morgan analysts, institutional sold 12.6 billion during market hours in addition to 7.8 billion in the market on close. However, we observed strong demand in the ES futures were bought this past week versus 2 billion sold in NQ and 481 million in RTY. Most of the ES buying took place at the beginning of March, which could be technical flow reversing the February month-end selling. I am concerned that with the equity markets, that what the action that we have been getting is primarily driven by like trading in short-term covering, and that eventually they are all going to have to turn around and sell. Oh boy, what's Jordan Peterson on about this morning? Liberation theology has subjugated Christianity to Marxism and doomed South America, and particularly to unstable governance and poverty. It's anti-Christian idol worship. Group identity is not Christian, even if the group is Christianity. And opposing greed is simply not the same as fighting capitalism. You know, I really hate the way that some people use the term greed. Well, even when we talk about like self-interest, pursuing self-interest, you know, that capitalism is driven by individuals pursuing their own self-interest. I don't really view it that way. What I see is that the people that are the most successful are the ones that help everybody else around them be successful too. Right? So it's really not self-interest. It's just it's a way of aligning everybody's interests. You know? I wish that we could perfectly align everybody's interests all the time, but that's clearly not possible. But so I that's why I don't really like the way that they use this term greed, because it implies that like you do something and you're doing it only for you and screw everybody else, and you're totally willing to screw other people if it helps you. And I don't view it that way. I mean can be situations like that, but for the most part, you're going to be more successful if you help other people. Like in capitalism, you're only worth the value that you can provide to other people. So it's like, right? Like in communism, you're only worth what you can convince the government to give you, right? Well, this is continuing through, and I am quite surprised, to be honest. I am quite surprised at how far this is going. Okay, Nick Timmeros, due to revised seasonal factors, a model of underlying trend inflation produced by the New York Fed, the quote multivariate core, ticked up to 4.9% in January, after initially reported to have been around 3.7% at the end of 2022. Okay. Not seasonally adjusted U.S. workers getting benefits rise above year-ago levels. Okay, so now that's interesting. What's with this 5K lot at 02? I'm gonna sim warrior this. I'm a little nervous about, like, I didn't do very well yesterday. So let's start out with Sim and see if we can get our legs underneath of us first. Not ideal. Okay, good. 3K lot sitting under there when they hit me. But they did hit me, and the big offer is gone. Do not like that, sir. No. Wow. You think he came down? Yeah, you're probably right. See, I was watching down here and I saw the 3K hit, but I didn't see the other one disappear. I was expecting to hear a little click, but I didn't. Oh, actually, maybe there wasn't. It just didn't play. Yeah, no, there was. He came down. It was 39.90. Yeah, you're right. He did come down. He got impatient. You're right. Totally right, dude. Good catch. I see this volume turning. There was like that initial pushback, but they just fell back just as quickly. That's making me feel a little bit more confident. Well, except for one of the problems is we don't like the big orders, right? Like, so I see a big order and then I want to take a trade. That usually doesn't work out for me, right? So it may still be a little slower around here. I don't think that this is, well, we'll see what it does, but I don't think, at least, that it's just going to immediately drop down, right? Man, I don't know what Mr. Jordan Peterson is yapping on about, but it seems like that whenever you start talking about Christianity, that he really gets animated about it. Okay, so we are seeing the volume in the 30-year like really turn down. So let's just keep an eye. 3.98 was kind of the price that I could have gotten, right? Whoa, wait. Ted Cruz just referred to a TV remote on CNBC as a channel selector? Cut it short at 2. All right.
The U.S. Democratic Senator Manchin says, "I won't hold."
Who calls it a channel selector?
Conditions.
Is that a thing in the UK? That's weird. Whoa. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has been hospitalized after tripping at a hotel during a private dinner, reports the Wall Street Journal. That's interesting. It's not interesting. That's, well, I mean, our condolences, but that's potentially a big deal. Because that's man, that's how Harry Reid went, right? So, Mr. Bond, I don't understand where you're saying 2. In what instrument? I don't see 2s anywhere. Or do you mean 111.02? You should put the little tilt. You should put the little the comma in front of it. 020. Then I know that you're talking about ZN. There you go. Oh, 111. No, how did you get that? We never. You'd have to have had that on since yesterday, I guess. Jeez. Yeah, it could have worked though. Oh no! Wait. We did go to No.
Commerce Secretary Raimondo says the US and India are to discuss
20.
coordination of investment.
You'd have to be short from last
Both
week.
Nations incentivize production.
I fuck up typing those darn numbers too. He must mean 020. Well, but like I said, I think it's a good short, and I do think there's a good chance of this retracing. I agree with you, but I don't think that it's going to go right away. I mean, you can see they're kind of, and there's still lots of volume trading over here too. Anyways, I was gonna say about McConnell. I mean, I'm sure that he's okay, but that was kind of how it started for Harry Reid, right? Was he had a fall, and then he was never the same after that. So that's when he retired, and he didn't last very long after that. And you know what? I kind of miss him. You know what? He was a Democrat. He was a big liberal wiener, and I hate a lot of his things, but he was also of my people, and he was fun. He was a lot more fun than some of these other nincompoops. I miss Harry. He's always saying funny things, man. Imagine the fate of your entire country resting on whether or not your great granddad falls in the shower. I'm a little bit mixed about Mitch McConnell because he definitely knows what he's doing, and I feel like that there aren't very many Republicans over there right now that really know what they're doing. But he still has some of these old style entrenched ways of doing things that are really holding Republicans back at the same time, you know? And so I don't know if they're really better off without him or not. That's a tough call for Mitch McConnell. Like Nancy Pelosi, man, Democrats are so much better off with Nancy Pelosi not being the head over there. I'm worried that the damage has already been done to the party and that they're never going back to the Democrat Party that they were before Nancy, but she was definitely a negative force there, man. You think Republicans will become like Nancy? I don't know about that, man. Steep left, steep right. Nah. I think that the problem in the GOP right now is a lot more about like tactical things rather than ideology. So think of it this way. Culture is downstream from politics. You can't forecast the game just by following. Well, okay. So what I mean by that is this: nothing's gonna get done, right? You literally have to have a super majority in the Senate to get anything done. It's just too difficult. And the issue is that now at this point, the structural problems that we have are so big and so entrenched that you almost can't solve them without big changes. I mean, we'd like to do things a little bit at a time, right? As a conservative, that's what you'd want to do. Is we say change is good, but it needs to be done the right way. And you don't necessarily want to do too big of a change or too much change all at once, because you need to be able to see the effects of things and adjust and so forth, right? Jose, good morning. So, like, nothing's going to change under the current way things are going, right? So, in order for one party to get an advantage over the other party, right? I really don't think that it's going to be there's some really strong movement and they come in and it's just so strong and then they change everything. And I don't think it's going to work that way. I think that you're going to have to be smart and play the game. So you need guys like Mitch McConnell in there, right? The issue is that Mitch McConnell is not completely on board with what needs to be done. Right? He still has some of these attitudes from like 80s style Republicans that are frankly not helping, right? So I don't think that that's going to be too big of a problem for much longer. But then the issue is, who do you have in Congress that actually, on the Republican side, that actually knows what they're doing? And it's kind of turning into Ted Cruz, and that's it, man. Like, I feel that the Republicans continue to have leadership issues in Congress. You get what I mean? So like it was the same thing in the House, right? Remember the whole Boehner thing? Oh man, that seems like ages ago now. But Boehner was in charge of the GOP. They didn't like him. They got rid of him and they put Ryan in, and Ryan was worse. Frankly, I thought that Ryan was worse. Right? That's their problem. Like where the GOP is ideological. I mean, that's a thing that changes too, but that's probably not the biggest factor in terms of where policy goes in the near future. And it's not the thing that's holding Republicans back, right? I think that so one of the things that I see, so let me approach this from a different direction, okay? One of the things that I see a lot online that a case that Democrats make is they say, well, look, when you present these policies to people, everybody says that they're Democrat. And of course, the conservative response to that is, well, yeah, because you're kind of giving them a distorted view in your survey, right? You're saying, oh, would you like to have free money? Of course, I would love to have free money, right? But then when you tell them about the costs and everything else, people kind of change, right? And I think you could say the same thing for Republicans. There are a lot of ideas that when you go and you approach it, most people are in favor of. So, for instance, most Americans do not believe that you should be able to have a late-term abortion. That's probably one of the GOP's biggest ones that they're not recognized for. That they actually are in line with the American public on that, on late-term abortion at least. And the media kind of denies it, right? So really, the Democrats and the conservatives both kind of have are really more like different flavors in some respects, right? So the Republicans, like their platform is not weak the way that the media tries to portray it as, right? Like the right is two choices: become moderate left or be perceived as Nazis forever. No, it's the Republican platform is not that bad, and a lot of Americans are still favorable to it, actually, right? Their favorability numbers are not like in the dumps per se, right? So I don't think that the Republicans' problem is the ideology. I think that the Republicans' problem is tactical. It's who's in front of the camera and what those people are saying, right? So what the Republicans need to think about is, how do I get smarter people in office that are good at being an actual representative and are good at kind of being the front person for sharing their platform, right? And then being able to get things to happen in a divided Congress. That's what Republicans need to focus on, in my opinion. Right? See the far right side of the they don't see it that way. They think that Republicans are too moderate and they're just going to become more moderate, and then nobody's going to vote for us because we're not moderate, because we're too, you know, they've moved the Overton window, all of this sort of stuff, right? But again, I don't think that that's correct, because nothing's going to get passed either way unless you're really good. Like, you're going to have to be really good at Congress itself, because you're just not going to get a supermajority. I think it's very unlikely that either party gets a supermajority in the Senate anytime soon. Every year, new leftist voters walk out of American high schools. So, so first of all, well, okay, let's, I mean, if that's what you believe, then just give up right now, right? if the younger generation is all extremely progressive and they're never going to become more conservative or anything like that, then this is all just futile anyways, right? You might as well just give up now, let the Democrats have the supermajority, do whatever the fuck they want, and because it's going to happen eventually, and we should just get it on with right now, right? I think that here again, what happens is the media is really good at distorting what people really actually believe. So I think that if you have effective policy, it's effective policy. And even though millennials may tilt left right now, that doesn't mean that they can't be persuaded by good policy, right? You just have to be good at what you do, and the Republicans aren't, frankly, right? The Republicans are only good at riling up their own base, right? They're playing the wrong game. Remember when Trump did the tax cut thing? Sure. There's a good example, right? He did cut taxes. They had a pretty good tax plan there. And they did not do a good job of promoting it at all. Right? Like most people I'm not sure that most Americans realize that there was a major change in the tax code under Trump.
March.
You know?
Versus 4.57% on the...
You know how many people genuinely thought the smaller tax refunds meant they were paying more tax? Right. Oh my gosh. Yesterday we were kind of talking budget and everything with my wife. And she was like, no, there's no way that's what you actually get paid versus what we take home. Are you kidding? Because it's like less than half. Okay, it's what my take home pay is less than half of what I actually get, right? And I'm like, well, you get taxes and then you have your benefits and you put a lot into the 401k match and all of that sort of stuff, right? And that's what she didn't believe it until I showed her. Well, they're breaching those highs again. I think I'm wrong here, man. Did you puke your short, Mr. Bond? I felt like we were in this together, and I think I have to bail here at minus 250. Very curious. The 5-year is just still pushing. The media brazenly reinforced that. Well, the media certainly doesn't help, does it? But look, the situation is what it is. I'm never going to say that things are futile. Okay. The thing that I consistently find in politics is that we make all of these assumptions about the way things are right now, and that all of those trends will just continue, and then it changes on us. I really don't think that the millennials are as wedded to the Democrat Party as y'all think they are. I would not take very much for them to just leave in mass. Like, seriously. Especially when, you know, the whole thing is that if the Democrat Party was like completely clean, then they would have a much better chance. But you know, when you got people like Nancy Pelosi basically doing insider trading and everything, right? They don't like the Democrat Party. They hate them. They hate them. I don't know. I wouldn't make too many conclusions about quote unquote Zoomers yet. They're not. They don't really know what's going on yet. The whole thing is you get out of school, usually you think, this is the way that I think people work. Okay. There's like 4 stages, three or 4 stages. All right. Most people never get to the 4th stage. Okay. The first stage is you have no clue what's going on and you're just enjoying the show. Okay. That's the first stage. Okay, so that's where you are through most in politics and in life. That's where you are up until you 14, 15, 16, right?
And so for those who are interested, you can trade
maybe 17, right? Then you shift. And you shift to the activist phase, which is, okay, here's my time. I'm going to have a difference on the world. I'm going to do all of these things. And I'm going to make all of these changes. And I think I know what's going on because, I've been around long enough now. And so I'm going to do my thing. Right. So typically this person, they're really vocal online now. Right. They want to argue a lot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. And then one of 2 things happens. Either one, you are ineffective, and so whatever the battle is that you have, you lose that battle, and you become discouraged from that. Or you win and you find out that winning wasn't really a very good thing either, and that the ideas that you wanted didn't work, or there was grift and it didn't work, or whatever. Either way, you won and you're still disappointed, right? And so by the time you get to your 30s, you come to this place of discouragement, which is where Uzi is right now. Right? And the fourth stage is this. The 4th stage is realizing that not everything has to be played out on the national stage, right? The 4th stage is realizing that you can find your group of just a few friends. And not everybody, you don't have to have tons of close friends. Maybe most people only have 1, but maybe you have your small peer group and you're able to build that small group in your community. And yeah, you can make changes and things there. And that has a bigger influence on your life than what the federal government is doing. That's the 4th stage. Most people don't get there. Most people don't get there. They just kind of turn off. HK's like, friends? ? That's what we have, folks. This is our community. It's like 24 people every day, and we've got our thing. And if we wanted to make changes, we could make changes, right? And this is way more interesting than having 1 million followers on TikTok and it just being a bunch of noise, right? Because you're actually able to have a closed community, right? That's stage 4. Yeah, it's small and predictable. And yeah, I often feel like I just have a lot of acquaintances. I mean, I've had close friends throughout my life, but things change. I change. I'm starting to wonder if that's just me and what the way that it was always supposed to be for me is, because I always come in and I'm like, well, I've got my thing now and I'm just gonna do that until the day I die, and it doesn't seem like it's, you know, like I'm already getting to the point where it's like, okay, so we did all this stuff, we got a lot of good information out, we got the PDF document out, which was like one of the major things, and we can continue to update that, but now we really have like the information that I feel like that people need. It's out there. So what do I do with the YouTube channel now? Right? Like it's like I have to move to different kind of content, I think. Okay, but to this thing that was like the trend of people becoming more conservative as they age is not what's happening with millennials. So that's not entirely true.
Signed a memorandum of understanding with India around.
So again,
during this trip,
the media really tries to paint a picture of the way that things are in an attempt to because they understand this reflexivity thing. They come in and they say this is the way that it is, and then everybody assumes that that's the way that it is. Then it's likely to be. It's almost like self-fulfilling. Okay, but the whole thing about millennials aren't very conservative, and they're actually becoming more liberal as they age is not true. Millennial women are becoming more liberal and are staying liberal because they're not getting married. Okay, but millennial men are not. Millennial men have not signed on to the ideology that the left has embraced, and Americans in general are kind of rejecting this kind of whole woke thing, right? Yeah, liberal in the streets and conservative in the sheets, right? So again, my argument would be, good policy is good policy. Okay. I really don't think that the Republicans playing the game very well. If the Republicans got better at it, then they would persuade millennials. I know a lot of liberal people who defend taking their children to drag shows, but none of them who actually do it. Okay, well, I've seen some do it. Well, but I think that this has a lot to do with ways of thinking, man. So should I try doing this again? Because that peaked so quickly, man. I'm gonna try it again. Okay. High risk. It's just sim. So you got to realize that we kind of have different modes of thinking. I think that the thinking fast, thinking slow book is not completely accurate with our most current understanding. Okay, but you got to realize that we have that frontal cortex. I guess have this on my mind because I made a TikTok about it yesterday, but you have that frontal cortex. Why did we evolve the frontal cortex? Because we're highly social animals that communicate, that have detailed communication, right? So we developed that frontal cortex because you need a way to be able to interpret what people are saying and read all sorts of context into what they're saying and be able to do that very, very quickly, right? And that's the most advanced part of your brain. So your brain wants to use that part of your brain. It's fast and it's effective, right? But there are some situations where it's not, it can be fooled. It's just kind of like with the ChatGPT thing, right? It'll come out and it'll make these really confident answers that are wrong, right? The neural network can kind of do that sometimes. And there are situations where a much simpler model of just like simple regression and so forth is more effective, right? So what happens when we're thinking about policy is we're talking about something that is so complicated that your frontal cortex really can't deal with it, right? It's almost like you have to put it down on paper and you have to start going through logic and study to decide what you want to do, right? But what happens is a lot of people never progress that far, right? There's a lot of people that their whole life has just been being social, and all they've ever done is use their frontal cortex, and they're not very good at dealing with like the world of facts and logic and systems and policy, etc., 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 right? So I personally, I believe that this explains at least part of the discrepancy that we're seeing with millennials in terms of politics, right? Is that a really large portion of these millennials have never gotten past that kind of like frontal cortex thinking to be able to say, here's where it's effective and here's where it's not effective. And so they're particularly prone to methods of manipulation that exploit your frontal cortex, right? And so that's where you get all of these people that are like, you know, defending taking their children to a drag show, for instance, right? But then when you actually have to come in and do things, because the frontal cortex is not necessarily as the frontal cortex is kind of good at like movement, okay? It's good at socializing, but like in terms of like doing things in a business, it needs help the other way, right? Well, geez, that sure came in fast. I know Zien is just, well, I'm holding like really tight. I'm trying to hold really tight risk in a pretty volatile bond market environment, aren't I? I'd say that has been enough for me to say I don't think I'm gonna take a live trade today, but well, nah, I don't think that this is quite the same thing as yesterday. Like what I'm seeing right now is like I would like to keep this within like 4 or 5 ticks, and the volatility is just really high. So everyone who can't provide society with something actually useful goes into politics and makes things worse instead. Well, no, it's just I really think that you got to engage deeper modes of thinking, I think, to solve a lot of these the problems that we have in our society. And what happens is your frontal cortex is so effective at a large portion of like problems, right? That most people never bother, you know? Like it's one of those things that you don't do unless you're really kind of almost forced to, right? Like when you go to school, if you're an engineer, I think you all kind of go through this. So you're an engineer, and there's a point at when you're an engineer that is difficult. There's some point at which things are difficult, right? And you have to learn. You change the way that you think about things, right? So when people are making decisions about like who they want to lead them and stuff, they end up using all of these kinds of instinctual heuristics that aren't really very effective at choosing good representatives. So you get representatives that have like the most name recognition and are the most popular, but not politicians that actually know what they're doing and are able to make good policy, or are able to wheel and deal in Congress effectively, or are able to get their message out on TV effectively, right? And Republicans are prone to it as much as liberals are, right? But there's kind of one saving grace to this all, and that is that at the end of the day, performance matters. The end of the day, performance matters. And so if you are performing, nothing can stop you. Okay? This is kind of the point I'm trying to make here. This is both just politics and life, all right? You're always, all of these people, think about all of the woke left. Oh, we're all oppressed. There's nothing we can do. Only thing that we can do is all gang up together, and enough of us gang up together and pull the system down, and then we won't be oppressed anymore. Yeah, no. You'll still be oppressed. You'll just be, in fact, you'll be even more oppressed. But you just be oppressed by somebody else, by a different person than who's oppressing you right now, right? No, is that really the way it goes? No, it's not. Here's the way out. The way out is be effective. You're effective, nothing can stop you. You have the right way. It's just like here in the markets, right? The whole, like, honest to goodness, the market is tilted against you if you're a day trader. Just straight up. The whole scheme, all of the statistics and everything are skewed against you. Because you can't get to the front of the queue. Like getting to the front of the queue is kind of like the way that you kind of bring things to break even. And then if you're taking on risk and so forth, you can make money in market making. All right. Market making, very much, the models kind of show that it very much relies on being at the front of the queue. Okay. It's all skewed against you, right? But guess what? If you know what's going to happen, if you're effective, you are informed, doesn't matter. You're going to make money anyways, in spite of all of the challenges, right? And that's the challenge in front of the Republicans is, yeah, there's a lot of things about society that are kind of skewed against you. The schools do seem to be turning out more liberal kids, but I'm telling you, if you're effective, that means that you're good at getting your message out. You're good at making new policies, and you're good at wheeling and dealing in Congress to get your policies passed. Effective is effective. And people will come around and come towards the things that are effective in the long run. Even though their tendency may not be to go along with that at first. Well, so the other thing, I was reading these other comments from Uzi. Yesterday was actually the opposite of what you're saying, though. Like, it was high, and so I was looking for the breakout, and it didn't. And then it was low, and I was looking for the breakout, and it didn't. I don't know how direct democracy would solve any problems. I can't think of any politicians who are effective. Yeah. Well, you're gonna hate what I'm about to say here, but the most effective Republican of the last 50 years was Newt Gingrich. Okay, look, in all seriousness, okay, Bill Clinton was a popular president. Newt Gingrich got it done, man. They made big changes, changes together with Bill Clinton, really positive. It's a big part. Newt Gingrich is a big part of why the Clinton years were good. In all seriousness, it's just, of course, he's not perfect, right? He cheated, and that screwed the whole thing over because he can't keep his dick in his pants. But Newt Gingrich was effective. He was a wonk. And he was good at getting the message out and convincing people. He was good at it, man. I don't think that Republicans have had a politician half as effective as Newt Gingrich since then. Not that I agree with all of his policy and everything, but I just think that the record of performance that they had during the Clinton years just speaks for itself. It was effective. Except for NAFTA. Well, see, we need to separate ourselves from I like this policy to what's effective, right? So they got NAFTA put in place, which is a big achievement. So that right there, effective, right? That's the thing that I'm saying Republicans lack right now is you can't get anything done with these kids, right? And then on the other side, I mean, you can attribute a lot of economic growth to NAFTA, right? So even though I don't think that NAFTA was good for the country as a whole, I think that economic agreements like that are generally a good thing, but there was some problems with that one, and it kind of drained the American middle class. It wasn't good, right? But some people did make a lot of money in it, and it did increase overall GDP. So here you have an example of, you might not like it, but it was effective, right? And if you want to fight against things like that, if you really don't like that policy and that policy is really negative for you, and that's what you believe, then you're going to have to become as effective as the people that created that law, right? Obama was effective.
Stating the Geneva Grain.
Congress wasn't effective during all of the Obama years, but Obama was actually really good at the job of president. I really don't like the way that he took things, but the reality was he was a formidable opponent for Republicans. There's your politician on the left that was effective. Right. The issue is kind of like we've kind of come into this no man's land where it seems like neither party really has anybody that's effective. Right. Ladder fan is like, though, without any trade, and like I'm sitting here like managing a market making a thing on Sim. I could maybe justify a live trade over here. I don't think that I have a very good reason to think that we're going to go back to up to 4% though to justify taking it. I feel like that I could maybe handle it now. But we have been doing something here. Was a loser, but we have been doing stuff. Maybe the problem is this. Maybe these people expect me to go, all right, guys, we have a trade. Everybody pay attention. The trade is go short 10-year treasury at 111.03 half. That's our trade. We just got the signal. So everybody in. That's what you want me to do, isn't it? Right? So because I come on here and like I don't say anything and I'm sneaky about it and I try and take the trade without anybody noticing and I'm just yapping about the other thing while I do the click, and then that's why they think that I'm not doing any. That must be it, right? Is you want a signal service. That's I could. So like in all seriousness, why else would you be upset that I'm not taking a trade? Right? Just say you did it off stream and made 6 figures for the day. Yeah, it looks like we're going up again, doesn't it? But what I'm going to do is this time, because it's Sim, I'm going to take a little bit more risk on it. All right? Because we are pretty volatile here, so I have to give it some room. Just call it a podcast. What do you think I'm calling it? So again, if I come through today, I mean, I've been taking sim trades today. Okay. We're trying to work up. If I was able to get a good trade in here and I felt like I was on, then maybe I would go back to a live trade. I don't know if it's going to happen. Okay. But let's just say that today was one of those days where I didn't put any trades on at all. Why would that bother you? Why would that bother you? That I took a trade that day or not? Just because it's day trading doesn't mean that you have to be in a trade all the time or that you have to take a trade every day. Why would it bother you if I don't take a trade? Right? So I can only think of two reasons why it would bother you, okay? One is you're projecting. You overtrade, and so you want me to overtrade too. Right? Or number two, you are looking for a signal service, right? That you don't want to come in here and learn about the markets and participate in a community. That's not what you're looking for. What you're looking for is somebody to tell you which trades to take and you can just follow him, right? If that's what you're looking for, leave this stream, stop trading. You're better off just not trading. All you're going to do is lose money if that's your approach. Okay? Only two reasons to do it, right? But what is my stream actually about? My stream is actually about working together, learning more about the markets, and building a community. That's going to help you more. I thought this was a mental health group. I don't know if we're a very good job if it's a mental health group, is it? I think it's still a little dangerous here, but I think I might be able to pull one here, another contract here. I never heard of non-active successful. Don't you learn by clicking? Well, listen, ladder fan. I've taken thousands of trades over the 5 or 6 years that this stream has been going on. Okay, and just like that's the whole thing. I'm just trying to tell you is like, look, you're a retail trader, all right? Like, think about the people who you're trading against, right? These are large corporations. I mean, maybe you're better than them at trading. Maybe if you were in that job, you would do a better job, right? But the reality is that you're not in the job, and they have all of these resources that you don't. Okay, it's really strongly stacked against you. Okay, so that doesn't mean that you can't make money, right? That doesn't mean that you can't have edge. Okay, but you kind of have to be a little sneaky. It's like the dinosaurs, right? It's like we're competing against dinosaurs back in the land of the dinosaurs, right? Mammals were still around, but they weren't the dominant force on the planet like they are today, because the dinosaurs were too big. So what did they do? They scurried around and they picked up the scraps from the dinosaurs, and that's kind of what we do. Is I can't necessarily kill the dinosaurs, but I can pick up the scraps that they leave behind. Okay. What that means is that you're not always going to have an advantage, and you've got to be very selective about when you actually put the risk on the table, right? So the reality is that almost everybody will benefit. Almost every day trader will benefit from trading less. That having a higher threshold for when you take your trades, it's very rare that their problem is they're not taking enough trades. Very rare. Almost everybody overtrades. So are you saying one day retail will be bigger than institutions? I think that someday, I don't know if it'll be that retail will be bigger than that. I don't know what that world is going to look like, but I do think that someday the market will be different. Yeah. I think that there's going to become a point where the costs of running an index fund and everything else that's associated with that becomes too high because people are too good at taking advantage of it. And you'll see a lot less institutional activity as a result. That may not ever be our lifetime, but at some point the market will change. And kind of the game here is being informed, being at the front, so that if that ever happens, you can take advantage of it, right? But yeah, I do think that there's a possibility that there could be an asteroid that comes and kills off the dinosaurs, yes. I think it could happen. Not to be too ominous or anything. You've been seeing this stuff from, oh, I forget who, I think it was JP Morgan. Their analysts were saying, okay, like when we look at how much notional like 0 day to expiration options are out there, if we had a move where all of the sudden the S&P 500 dropped 5%, then when all of the 0 day to expiration option holders puke, that would exacerbate that move to a negative 20% move. And like when you look at their math and their data and everything, it totally checks out. I think it's a scenario that's not very likely, but it totally checks out. And I really kind of wonder, well, you know, what would the March 2020 market have been like if 0 day to expiration options were as popular as they are now? Because that market was nuts. I felt at the time that, you know, like we were hitting the circuit breakers and everything. I felt that was a little over the top, you know. Hey, they gave it to me. I'm liking it. It's actually getting a little bit thicker on the inside here now, don't you think? What's your take on the VIX and the general low volatility in markets? Well, so first of all, I think that volatility in the next month is likely to rise. I think that the volatility in the next month is very likely to rise, but a lot of it has been like all of this oddness in the options and everything, right? You get these situations where like the market is moving a lot, but it's not reflected in the VIX, which is really interesting. But you know, the issue is that the market, the at least the SPOOs, the SPOOs are changing structurally in a significant way, and not everybody is caught on yet, right? I suppose that suggests that there's some opportunity over there, but I haven't quite figured out how to take advantage of that one. Somebody's making money from it, I'm sure. Oh, 3.5 is a magnet. Yeah, there's a definite liquidity hole there now, huh? Sometimes we get movement at the beginning of the S&P 500, but I'm kind of the reason I'm taking the trades that I'm playing this the way that I am is because I think that we're likely to just have a, you know, it might be skewed to the upside. It may be skewed to the upside, but I think that you're gonna have like contracting volatility here. Like it seems to me that the market makers are like taking trades up in here, and that they've become dominant again. Could be wrong about that. Like these moves up here in the 05 half area, that seems like luring to me. Like they make that offer look really weak, and then when they trade into it, there's more there than was actually being offered, right? And I'm a betcha. And can I make a call like this? If we do breach the high, it will probably only be for a few ticks, and then it will probably revert back down really hard again. That doesn't mean that it can like trend up through the day, but like there's going to be steep pullbacks, and it's going to be really slow if it continues to move up. VIX uses 23 to 37 day to expiration options. S&P has been trading in a 5% range in that period, which puts the realized in the low teens, VIX being in high teens, if I'm correct. Yeah. Right. Like VIX is not as low as it should, as it normally should be. You're right. It's like there's been like a really big change in the market. Because what has happened is the notional amount trading in the 0 day to expiration has just like skyrocketed, and it's like a huge. I wish I could remember where I saw the chart. It was on some Zero Hedge story where they were showing, okay, like how much of the market is this and this and this in notional value, right? How much of it is actually like individual traders buying stocks, and how much of it is futures, and how much of it is options on SPX and stuff like that. And the amount that was like options was like huge. I was like, oh my gosh, the individual the takeaway that I took from the chart was that all of the hedging on the index and all of that activity that happens on the index and the various derivatives to that was a much stronger force in the market than the people actually buying the individual stocks. Oh, you're saying VIX being in the high teens is correct, but you're saying that it would be realized would be in the low teens. I guess the VIX does tend to be a little bit more than the realized volatility, though, right? There's definitely been these moves, though, where like you have like a huge move down and like the VIX doesn't change. That sort of a thing. I guess the larger thing here is that it seems to me like the market should be a little bit more antsy than it has been, don't you think? Yeah, because they have to price in the uncertainty with it, for sure. It's the same with why. Anyway, you're getting me off on all sorts of strange polls that go on forever. There's so much you can learn about that stuff. That was a significant take on the downside for the 5-year there. But here's the larger thing, is that I think that if the market turns back down onto well, like say for instance on Friday is a good example. If the jobs number on Friday is good, higher than expected, what are we looking for tomorrow, by the way? Okay, so they're forecasting 224,000 with a previous reading of 517. Okay. So let's say that tomorrow it came out at like 300K, right? I think that this market would absolutely puke its brains out, and then you would actually get that change in volatility. Like, I think that it could change so quickly, right? If the market really gets concerned about inflation again and interest rates take another jump higher, it could be really ugly and quick, I think. Watch, it'll happen, and then it will be just like a slow drain down, and I'll be like, what the heck? Bloomberg has 195. Yeah, usually tonight you get good research. Like Zero Hedge always has a synopsis that is really, really detailed. And I would recommend reading that. And it sure does. So I don't like it when. So we have like a liquidity hole of sorts here at L3 half. A lot of volume is traded there, right? But at the moment they can't get below it, and I'm usually not a happy camper when that's happening. That kind of makes me suspicious that that the meta order is still there and is buying. Ugly for whom? Everyone. It'll be just like some of this time last year. It'll be just like this time last year, where it's just carnage and there's nowhere to hide. Right. I don't know if it would necessarily go further than than last year's lows per se, but it would, that's still ugly to go down to last year's lows. It's not like the apocalypse. COVID, it was basically like
gains. US crude
the standard for a market apocalypse, right? I still think back on that and I'm like, I'm really surprised that they didn't shut the exchange down. They had to have been within days of shutting the, like, if Congress hadn't put together a package, maybe the market would have, maybe they would have shut it down for a week or two or something. So it was crazy time. Okay, well, they were able to finally touch L3, so that makes me feel a little bit better. I felt like the timing is a little bit better if I wanted to come in here and take a trade. I am partial. So the issue that I have right now is that I think from a swing perspective that long here is good. But from the perspective of the next hour and a half, I'm not so sure. I think I can get enough from the market making here for it to be worth my while practicing, but I'm not sure if like hitting 3.97 is the right decision here.
The CEO says they're worried about coming few winters and that energy security issues in Europe are not resolved. So according to Sarah Week, they're citing the Shell CEO.
I'm okay with how I got filled on that one. Good. So I don't know why this thought's coming into my mind, but going back to the stuff that we were talking about earlier, maybe I'm just an optimist. I don't know, but everywhere around me I see lots of problems and lots of problems that I don't think are going to be fixed anytime soon. But I also see a whole lot of tremendous opportunity and positive things. Like I really, even though I know there's problems, and you remember that we as humans are kind of more prone to focus on the negative, right? That's kind of a survival instinct of sorts, right? But like when you think about the technology that's ahead of us and all of these other good things that are happening in the world, I really think that we have a lot of reason to be positive. Like this whole idea that like The thing that the idea that I keep seeing presented, and it seems like it's been driven into millennials' heads their whole life, is that we're like living at the peak of our civilization, and I really don't believe that that's the case. You know, I think that the future is up, and you know, if the market takes a really heavy dip here in the next 6 months, which I think there's a good chance it could happen, I'm buying more. Well, we never stood up and stretched. Let's stretch a little bit and then try and take a little bit of an inventory of what's been going on across the market here. Okay, so treasuries look like they're pressuring that high again. Oops. Maybe they'll get it. I think we did a pretty okay job market making this range, though, even if we're ultimately wrong about the direction. Coming back over to our charts, though. S&P 500 is still pointed up, and so is oil. Oil has been pretty strong this morning, and gold is looking really good today too. In fact, let's come back and look at gold on our volume profile. Okay, so to really retrace that ugly down move that we had, we need 1850, but that's okay. Now let's come back over here. Does Zero Hedge have anything about these numbers? Like, is it, are they reading into these numbers as like a much larger positive than I am? Seems like they must be. Oh, okay. According to Challenger, Gray, and Christmas, U.S.-based employers announced 77,000 job cuts in February. It's 410% higher than the 15,000 cuts announced in the same month last year. February's total is the highest for the month since 2009. So far this year, employers announced plans to cut 180 jobs, up 427% from the 39,000 of cuts announced in the first 2 months of 2022. It's the highest January-February total since 2009. Worst since Lehman is never a good thing. Certainly, employers are paying attention to rate increase plans from the Fed. Many have been planning for a downturn for months, cutting costs elsewhere. If things continue to cool, layoffs are typically the last piece in company cost-cutting strategies, says Andrew Challenger, Senior Vice President of Challenger, Gray, and Christmas. Right now, the overwhelming... Is that really Christmas? Yeah, it is Christmas. Right now, the overwhelming bulk of cuts are occurring in technology. Retail and financial are also cutting right now as consumer spending matches economic conditions. In February, job cuts occurred in all 30 industries Challenger's tracks. In fact, Challenger has not recorded announcements in every industry the firm tracks since January 2013, when cuts occurred in all 29 industries. Tech layoffs continue to dominate. But here comes the official BLS-sponsored data, which shows that initial jobless claims, which jumped from 190 to 211 last week, the highest since December. Continuing claims also rose to 1.7 and well above the 1.66 expected. Notably, non-seasonally adjusted initial claims jumped to 237K. New York and California saw claims soar last week as the tech layoffs are starting to come through. Overall, the total number of Americans on some form of unemployment benefit continues to hover near one-year highs. Additionally, Bloomberg's Simon White notes... Excuse me. Additionally, Simon White notes that overall, the percentage of industries with a rise in claimants of more than 10% is creeping up. This does not necessarily suggest reason for any imminent concern, but this regime shift indicator climbs fast, especially just before a recession. Yes, we understand there are lags between the two series since the laid off are likely to be getting severance, but the fact that the claims data is tumbling back near record lows as layoffs are accelerating year to date at their fastest pace since Lehman is ridiculous. Finally, we note that companies announced plans to hire 28,000 workers in February, down 12% from the 32,000 hires announced in January. It is down 87% from the 217 announced by companies in February of 2022. So far, companies announced plans to hire 61,000 workers, the lowest January-February total since 2016. Okay. Seller puke inbound? Maybe. I think that I would probably have to puke up there, right? I mean, this doesn't seem to be working. Now I'm like 3 contracts long again. But it's still like level 2 activity is still really low. So I would be a little bit surprised if the extension on highs was too crazy, you know? I think it was probably likely to be a lot like what it was yesterday, where like they'll make the move, but then it kind of doesn't really do anything. We're kind of in this circular reference thing again, right? It's like, okay, so the Federal Reserve is going to maybe raise interest rates 50 basis points, but then like that's going to hurt the economy, but then that hurts the economy, so they don't need to raise rates as much. But then when the rates go down, that's good for equities, so they buy equities. And you know, like the whole like seeing equity and treasuries moving up together right here, it to me is a little bit like, I'm not sure if that completely makes sense. I'm not sure if that completely makes sense, but you know, they do what they do. I don't think I'm in a position to try and make too strong of a prediction about what it's going to do over the next hour. I mean, there's a way to sort it out, but I still think that there's something off in what we're seeing today. I don't know. I mean, it was 20,000 contracts. That's about what we saw yesterday. I guess this amount of a move in the treasury is reasonable. Something long the discount rate. What? Well, anyways, I was looking for it to come back, but you know, I really don't think that I have a very good reason to think that it will come back. Yeah, grinding up small fish. I think you're right, Uzi. It really does not seem to me. I mean, there was a big move off of the news itself, but it seems to me like this market is being dominated by speculators and market makers, and I don't really think that the big fish are really involved right now. Rho is gamma on coke. Oh man. Wait, isn't Rho the sensitivity to interest rates? Yep. Expected change in an options price per 1 percentage point change in interest rates. Is Rho really that strong? Yeah, and there is a lot of there's a lot more volatility in interest rates than there is in equities right now. I tell you that much. Well, yeah, it affects delta, which feeds into shares held in inventory. So, but doesn't that also mean that any kind of options buying strategy is more expensive as a result? What would be, I could see a couple of different ways to adjust to that, but I'm trying to think of what would be the most sensible way for a retail trader to try and take advantage of that. Okay, so they're at the high here. They're gonna touch it, I think. Yeah, 106. So you see what I mean? Like, in days past, that would have been like a clean sweep through and we'd already be at 09. It's still quiet. Playing the dangerous game for fun. Yes, but what does it does on the dealer side? Well, it's probably not good for Citadel, is it? Because that means that they have to hold more money to hedge themselves. And there could be more movement where while they're holding it, they could potentially lose money from. Oh, okay. Makes it harder for them to borrow and hedge, so it's cheaper to buy and hold more in. Oh, so it actually is. It actually might mean cheaper options for a retail trader? But it would also mean less liquidity, right? Simply means calls are on both in control. I've kind of been wondering, like, just like with our markets, it seems like for a while I was really concerned about the liquidity. Nothing too bad ever happened. Liquidity looks pretty good right now, but I kind of wonder if that flips back down around quick, you know, how quickly that could change. Don't think it would take very much for them to be like, I don't want to hold this anymore. So you should see more volumes and calls across expiry. So unless rates start settling down. Well, so what do we think about rates? So right now, the projections for the terminal rates are like 5.5, but people are starting to talk about 6, you know? Though I think it's actually going to happen. I don't know. The question is still, how much is an increase in rates actually affecting the economy, and how lagged actually is it? Because there's lots of reasons to think that it could be different right now than it has in the examples that we have to compare against, because the market has changed so much. And one of the things is that we've had interest rates low for so long, a lot of people don't have to refinance or take up new debt, and so the rates don't really affect their business as much. The rates become a bigger deal. Like I think they were saying 2025 is like peak refinancing time, which is when companies would have to refinance their debt, and then it would be a problem. But until then, you know, it's maybe the rates aren't affecting the economy as much, and that's why things are still really strong, despite having raised rates so much. But then the other argument is maybe they just, we just need to wait longer, right? And I'm not sure what the case is. Frankly, I'm still surprised that we are having as much problem we aren't seeing as big of that. Blah. I'm surprised that employment is still so strong. I'm really surprised that employment is still so strong. And then there's all the people that say that the employment numbers are fake, right? So that's a big puzzle that puts me in a very uncertain, makes me very uncertain about. That's why I just say I think there's a good chance. I think there's a good chance that we could see an ugly downturn in the next 6 months, but I'm not concerned enough about it that I'm like liquidating my portfolio or anything. Don't let me have my dream of seeing one on the conversion factor on OTRs across the I don't know. So what is it? It's it's 6, isn't it? Yeah, it's 6. I'm kind of proud that I remembered that off the top of my head. So you're not saying maybe, will it or will it not, but you would just like to see interest rates at 6% so that the conversion factor would be 1. That's funny. Well, you know what I want to, what I'm interested in? I have a dream like that too. I'm not sure if it's ever going to happen, but my dream is to see the treasuries below par, to see the prices below par. Do you think that that'll ever happen? So that the 10-year treasury will be at 100 or below. Yes, me, my RAM, my Excel spreadsheets all would be, because it would make, that's funny. Your calculations aren't that much processor, are they? Oh my gosh. I wish I had saved. I should have saved this article, dude. So I saw an article on LinkedIn yesterday where they had done a survey across the, all of the businesses, like all of the trading businesses, and asked them, do you use machine learning in your trading? And 80% of them said that they did. And the models that they were using were huge. Like they were saying that on minimum they had 10,000 features. I was like, oh, that's a little bit bigger than I was planning on doing. Basically the gist is, if I go through and I do machine learning stuff, if I want to make a machine learning strategy that's competitive, I'm probably going to have to pay for a lot of processing power. Mostly RAM, hold all the open sheets, processor is fine. I don't understand why Excel takes so much effing memory, man. I've been doing a little bit with the spreadsheet just because the project that I'm doing at work is so wide that we have to put it in spreadsheet and keep track of everything. And just having that thing open makes the machine so much slower. I hate it. You have a Threadripper? Really? Jelly. I keep this, so I want to make a new computer. And sometimes I think, let's make a Threadripper. Let's really save up and spend $3,000 on a machine and get a Threadripper. But then I'm like, I don't know if I'd actually use it. I think that we should just get a normal consumer machine, and then when we're ready to put more stuff in this rack, then we can really put something in there. It runs Crisis. Oh, you guys. Okay, so they touched a new high very briefly. They've come back. They're still being pretty nonchalant about it, but the pressure still seems to be up. It really seems to me like the market seems to like it was reading a lot into that number. Like to me, it's like, oh, it's just jobless claims ticked up a little bit. That's not a huge deal. But the market seems to think that this is like, oh, yep, jobs are turning around. They're actually getting out there. Now, you know, another month of this and the Federal Reserve will be dropping interest rates. And yeah, that's what like they're all saying. And I'm just kind of sitting here like, okay. Okay, well, if you give me 3.9 again, I guess I'll take it. I guess. Was that another new high? Yes, it was. So that's now what, 3? Oh, it wasn't a new high. It was just ticking into the high, but they haven't cleared 08 yet. Strangely enough, as we're doing that, the volume in the treasuries are all pointed down. So, I don't know. It was looking okay for a moment, but they didn't get back to my 04 half where I had taking some of those contracts off so that I could really bring down my average. Seems like there's something going on over here in the equities too. There's been a little bit of a shift in the volume. Yeah, Marketeer asks, calm before the storm. Tomorrow's non-farms really could shake the market for sure. Tomorrow is probably going to be one of those non-farms where I just can't take a trade because it's too volatile. Fed's bar. Banks are expected to notify the Fed before engaging with crypto. Some new financial technologies have the potential to accelerate payment systems. If I had decided to market make the other direction, I don't think that I would have been able to get as many contracts on, but I'd be looking pretty cool right now, wouldn't I? Oh well. I think it's a little too hot in here today, I think. Too much pressure. Yeah, I don't know. So yesterday took a loss. It wasn't a bad loss, but I did feel bad about it for whatever reason. And I felt so tired in the evening. I'm wondering if it was just because I didn't do well that day or what. I had good sleep, and I wasn't really thinking about it, but by lunch I just felt so exhausted. And I'm feeling the heat here, so there's my stop, man. Darn. Was that the second one? Yeah, that was the second one today. Okay, well, let's flip it around, shall we? YOLO. So it's now it's doing the level break setup right there at 09. Right. Well, this is why we didn't do it on a live contract, right? I guess we should have gone long when we came in here, right? Or we should have gone short the treasuries. We could have made 30 or 40 bucks. Right? Well, I was going back to, you're talking about 03 half. Going back to what I was saying, it's like when you have a clear liquidity hole and for some reason they can't seem to get that center of that hole to go offer, that's not a good sign, right? Because that kind of suggests that there is a meta order in there still buying, and that's the price that they're buying at, and they're not letting it go below that price. So, oh, they gave me another one. Okay. You can see the little numbers pissing themselves. What? Sure seems to me like... So this situation right here reminds me of something that I've seen so many times, which is like this level break setup is kind of like a 50-50 in a normal market, and it's like you take it every time when it's a trend day. But in a more range bound market, I've can remember so many times early on I loved that one and I was always taking it, and then I'd get disappointed and it would completely retrace. Like I have so many traumatic experiences of taking that level break and it not working. Why did you short it there? Oh, I wasn't really. I think that the thinking was that we would retrace because the news wasn't that big of a deal. But I wasn't very confident about it or anything. Yeah, your watch, it's gonna flip now that I'm market making long, it's gonna finally come back and just absolutely plunge before we're done here, huh? Just to make me look as foolish as possible. They have to sell it all the way back down now. Nah. Knowing the average pullback. Oh, well, okay. So if you go and you do like a 30-minute or a 5-minute chart and look at the range of the bars, it'll tell you the same thing, Ojo. But you're right that having your stops and your targets further than like the average swing size helps a lot. Like it's really hard to do much when it's below that. But you got to be really careful about like the thing that I think a lot of people do is they think that that's your edge in and of itself. That's all you got to do. All that does is prevent you from getting screwed over with your stops every trade, right? Doesn't actually provide much edge. It's kind of more like getting even or something. Because the reason why and the other issue with this one is that it is very fat-tailed, right? Like when the market shifts out of that, it really shifts out of that. And then you're continuing to use those metrics and you just get royally screwed. Like you'll see it with the way that I trade, right? When I'm catching winners, there's been so many, like the winner that I caught on, what was it, Tuesday, was like $10, right? I almost got 20, but I ended up only getting 10 out of it. And then the next day I lost 32, right? So in other words, I get enough of these to run that it works out, but see Seth, what you were doing, tweak it a little, do it thinking you have 100 ZNs in your inventory and this activity is your marginal trading of one lots, and track that total equity. Wait, so say that I have 100 in my inventory already and then just trade one lots. Why? I don't understand what you're saying or why you say that. Damn. Oh, you will scratch what market making is. I don't think that what I'm doing here is what I would necessarily call market making. I mean, okay, so to me, let's say I wouldn't think that what I'm doing here is effective market making, let's say. Okay. So to me, a scalp is a trade where you're very, very short trade where you're mostly making the spread and is based largely on the book and correlations, right? Market making to me is a narrower version of that where you're managing in a large inventory with it as well. And that's the only thing that I would put down as market making. So for me here, I am mostly just trying to take advantage of the movement, right? But you can see that when I get like 5 ticks against me, I'm screwed, right? So it's not a net successful strategy, because when it loses so badly, and it doesn't get as much on the wins. But it's kind of fun and interesting, so usually it works out, right? Because you are taking on a lot of risks, so usually it works out, but it doesn't seem like it is today. It's kind of funny that it's turning here like that. Well, I'm taking the approach of like I think I'm only capable of managing 10 contracts right now. I feel like that if I got over that I would start to lose track of what I was doing. I don't know. It's also kind of part of it is like, well, it's realistic for me someday to maybe trade 10 contracts, so. Well, we'll see if they go back up. One of the things that I hate is like if I'm down, and as like if I add one contract at 07 and then take one off at 07 half, my P&L doesn't reflect that was as a win, because it's it's first in, first out and whatnot. So I don't really have a clear picture of how much or how little that was actually helping me. Clearly, it doesn't matter as much as that it didn't breach through there. So this is also one of those funny things where it's like, it feels like the market's directly trading against you, right? So like I was selling, and then as soon as I switched to buying, then it turns down, right? I mean, I'm trading sim orders. I don't care what happens here. I'm screwing around. So surely that couldn't be happening. But what is it that I'm doing that would get me that offsides like that 3 times in a row? Is it just random chance? It must be. It has to just be random chance, right? This is the market makers gunning for your stuff. I don't have a stop. It's the whole thing. I wouldn't consider it random if the price is 10 ticks higher than you sold by the time you decide to start buying. Well, no. But why is it that the point that I decide to start buying that it flips around? Oh, well, maybe you're saying, well, by the time that you decide to switch around, that just was the end of the move or something. Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's where I'm saying there has to be mostly random element to it. The thing is, it's been net selling for a while now in the 10-year and the 30-year. So, I don't know. I think though that I'm to the point where like I'm not, how do I describe this? Like I wouldn't call it tilted because I'm not like mad about it or anything. I don't care. I know that it's sim, which is maybe like another kind of cope, I guess. But it's just like it seems like my read is just really bad right now for some reason. Like I don't think that it would make much sense for me to try and buy 396 in the hopes that we go back up to 4. Like that's what I want to do right now. That's what's going through my head is, well, this isn't working out, but maybe now we can get the trade that we originally wanted. Oh, that's weird. I'm just realizing how thick the book is in the micro 10. You think we're on the first leg of a mid-order long in ZF? I don't know, man. The move that we had in ZF is a little unusual. Reacting to large flows can result in late entry. That's true. That was like on that first one where I was like, well, now that we have these big orders here, that's not a, I don't want to be taking a live trade because of that. Because you see the big order and you think, oh yes, that means we're going to continue going up, and then what? It just gets stuck. Do you have 40k delta for the pit? So I have that when the news hit, we were at -100, and at the peak we were negative 80, and now we're basically back to 90. So we had 10,000 buy, or sorry, 20,000 buy, and then 10,000 net sell to get us to here. I would also say that the downside action that we have seen was absorbed. It was not just like it falling through on correlations or anything. There was flow behind it. $3.96 doesn't look like too bad of an entry at the moment. I really don't like entering into a position when there's only 30 minutes left, though. Steepen our block. Well, now that's a good point, is that through that whole move they were steepening, and even though we're coming down here right now, it still looks like the yield curve is steepening. Which kind of suggests to me that maybe the upside action is done per se, but it's not necessarily a regime change. This is more of a reversion. Oh, I think it's been long enough now that 03 half shouldn't really matter anymore. Yeah, never know, but I wouldn't bet on 03 half being too pivotal again. Can happen, but if it does, I think it's a random thing. Or more to the point, that 03 half ended up having so much volume at it is not, there's no fundamental reason behind it, right? So there's no reason for us to think that it would necessarily have to do it again. It's weird when nobody puts a limit at a price. So what do you guys think of the micro 10-year having so much more liquidity all of a sudden? I'm just realizing that they're putting like 40, 50 contracts on every price now. What's with that? Does seem like the limit orders are a little hesitant here, doesn't it? At least at 04 half they are. Oh, I see that the S&P 500 ticked into 4,000. There was a lot of absorption, but they didn't extend below that. So that's curious. Well, that's the best bid they've held at 05 for some time in the first like a reversion. Here we're gonna get what, natural gas change? Yeah. Anyways, this thing where like nobody puts a limit order at a price, for instance, that's what I'm looking for. That's one of the things that tells me maybe there's a liquidity hole here. Of course, you kind of have to watch it as average over time. I would say that even though that ad's happening and it's a little clear, we've had plenty of other ticks where they're pretty thick on both sides of it, like they are at the moment. So seems like they're not done with whatever it is that they're doing at the moment. Seems a little testy there at 05 half, or no, just 05. Coming back over here to zero hedge. Russia's huge retaliation strikes include hypersonic missiles as NATO sees Bakhmut falling in coming days. I'm surprised that that's lasted as long as it has. They were saying that like last week. Come on. I know you want to do it. I'm wondering to myself right now, like, so from an informed trading perspective, doesn't seem like we've had very good opportunity today. The trades, I'm on like a really bad losing streak on sim, at least. On sim, I'm on a really bad losing streak. And and it's not like it's just I'm trying to fade the trend or anything like that. I've taken them both ways, although maybe some poor trades, right? I would have thought that it would have been a little bit better than that today. I guess it's not unusual for it to happen ahead of a big non-farms and everything, but maybe next week will be better. But it's a little, I don't know. I feel a little bit anxious about it, I guess you could say. So we'll see. Well, it's looking better. I mean, if they were to rush back up through to the highs, then I would be super stoked. But closest would be the one I told Seth up in the chat. Hold a lot of contracts in inventory and trade on the margins. I don't think I completely understood what he was even saying, to be honest with you. I think he might be saying that you take like the profits and you use that to increase your size or something, but something that I think would be fun to do. I was told by the block traders that once you get to the point where one tick is an additional contract, that things really change. So in other words, when you get to the point where one tick here is worth $500 and you could put on another contract, I guess with retail margins, that's what it would be. Then every time that it ticks up or down, you can add an additional contract, and that changes things. Did I get? No. It's like, did I get any of my orders filled? No, not yet. So if the market is looking to maximum embarrass me today, then they're not going to fill me at 06.5 and they're just going to plunge down, right? So you'd say 125 contracts for ZN? Wait, what would that be? Oh, wait. 15.625 times 125 equals 1953, which is the full maintenance. Is that the maintenance margin for them right now? Well, or whatever. You might just be spitballing it, right? Yeah. Yeah, about that. Like, because I've heard these stories of guys that like they're driving it. So like the in the Mad Dog, is that what it was? Is the guy from Australia, and they made a documentary about him, right? And there's one point where these two guys on the floor are telling a story about something that had happened that day. And it sounded like what happened was this guy bought it and he was adding contracts the whole way up. And then he was able to exit because they were like, oh, well, there's no, like, you're going to sell and then they're just going to drop it on you and you're going to lose it all, right? But he actually was on the right direction. And he was able to exit, and then he tried going short and he just got ran over and he lost it all on the other way instead. That was an interesting story to me. So I would think that my dream would be catching a really strong trend and just being able to add contracts the whole way, you know, and then get to the point where it balances and get exit. How much time we got left? 20 minutes? Oil came back a pretty decent clip, but they're still the biggest winner today. But oil being the biggest winner at 1% is relatively calm for recent market action. Treasuries are still fairly volatile today, I would say. I mean, this is a decent rise that we had, even though most of that happened with the oh man, they did not fill me at 06.5. You gotta be kidding me, man. I said maximum embarrassment would be they don't fill me there. Man, if they really turn back down, I'm really gonna be wondering here, like, how do you get that unlucky? I'm not sure that makes sense. I could be that unlucky. And it's just kind of arbitrary that my order ended up being there. So it really so weird. There was no reason that I put it there. other than that's what got me to 10 contracts. Bill Gates admits vegetarians won't save the planet. Okay. Did you know, oh, what the heck, Bitfinex tweets, did you know that Bitfinex's long Bitcoin positions are higher than the last 7 weeks of all of Bitfinex's volume? Allegedly. Pretty sure these positions are just wash traded. They borrowed their own Bitcoins to show a high longs statistic. That is interesting. Hey, some volume at 0.4 $3,800 to take 0.5. Not a strong bid at the moment, but what was the big spike I'm not sure what you're referring to pre-market, unless you're talking about the 6:30 news. So 8:30 news. So we had the weekly jobless claims, which were higher than expected, and the market really liked that. I feel like that this is a much stronger reaction than I would have expected. But the market seemed to really like that the unemployment claims ticked up to 220. So I don't know. So I was this whole time I was market making up in this area. It's short. It went all the way up there, and now look, it's come back. Okay, so that's a good thing, because that means that the Federal Reserve's policy is maybe starting to take effect, and that maybe it's just lagged, and that would mean that the Federal Reserve would be able to back off on further rate increases, and that maybe they only have to do a 25 basis point cut next meeting. Well, I highly doubt that they would cut next meeting, but sometimes I really just wonder, like, we should make Akshay create his own channel. We can stop streaming over here. Akshay can take over. I'll come and we can all chat on Akshay's stream instead. With Excel. like that would be the funny part of it, is like, you think that my stream is boring sometimes? Try like, imagine this, but it's all in Excel instead. What? Elon Musk is planning to build his own town on part of thousands of acres of newly purchased pasture and farmland outside of Austin. His goal, a Texas utopia. That sounds like a disaster in the making to me. Well, you know what? I'm stubborn and I'm going to keep it on all day. I just can't shake this feeling that like the market maker is trying to piss me off specifically. You know, it's just like, so you get so many coincidences all in a row and it's like, how can that possibly be? And it happens so often where it's just like all of a sudden it goes into dismal. Now I've gotten really good at avoiding that with my live trades, right? Because I've kind of learned like, well, if I don't have a clean edge where the, you know, I want to be in a situation where the market maker would have to be crazy to trade against me, right? But man, so that, and I think that's where it's been like, oh, I don't trade as much, and that's where I've been a lot more successful. But when I go and do the sim and like, oh, I'm just screwing around, I still get these situations where it's like it screws me over no matter what. And it's even like all I want is one order to get filled, and they stop literally right there. Why would it be that they would stop literally right at 06.5 and they wouldn't be able to trade through that? It was arbitrary that I put that. There was nothing special about that price. Why would it do it right there perfect? And it's like 3 or 4 of those things in a row. How can that happen? You know? Well, you know what though? It's what happens to me. Is when we get into this situation, that's usually when like I would have blown out by now. You know, like if I was trading all this live, I would have been like, oh, oops, I blew my account, whatever, right? And then that's when like all of the best opportunities happen. So it makes me maybe a little excited for tomorrow and the next week. Was the initial balance high at 06.5? Oh, I don't know about that. No, that doesn't make any sense, but whatever. It's pretty funny though, isn't it? I like when I took this trade, part of my thinking was like, well, I bet you that if I go long here, they'll turn back down, right? Do you guys want it to go back up? Because I could start working short here if you want. I don't know. I'm still holding out hope that they come back up here. He said, Blue Boy's the only one here with me. He's like, there's got to be something to those coincidences. I do wonder. So like based on what I know about the market, it shouldn't be so much of a coincidence as it is that like I did something somewhere, everybody else did something somewhere, and then the market maker just works it out to whatever works out best for them. So like it wouldn't really matter. It shouldn't really matter what I do. In that situation, it should still be a net loser. Unless you're the biggest guy in the market, right? Yeah, I'm still like, Maybe if you had some sort of Fibonacci number. I'll tell you what. I wonder if it's actually a lack of anything that would get it at 06 half. That was why it didn't touch that, because it doesn't match up with any of the pivots or the volume or anything like that. I guess there is a gap here at 05 half 06, but I think that's largely because they came up there and then they decided to come back down, right? They're teasing me again. They're like, look, Seth, we pulled back. We're going to fill you this time. And then they're like, oh, no, actually, we're going to come one tick short of even that and then push lower. I heard about that trick on that other video. So somebody told me that they worked for a bank and that they were doing multi-time frame analysis. So what they were doing is they were like doing a meta order, and then they would look at all of the different like charts on different time frames. And I don't know how this algorithm would figure this out, but basically using machine learning, they would then be able to select a time that was the most random, I guess you could say. It would be the most random time for them to start their meta order. No, but the 06 was not a candle of anything. You come over to here. 06 half. Oh, I guess there was pivot here at top of the hour, 7 o'clock. Oh, you were right. It was the initial balance high. Why did I not see that when I was going through before? I was like, no, the initial balance. I think I was seeing that as the initial balance high. All right, well. Kind of one of the things that weirds me out about it too is like, look at how high we are above like the average market maker positioning and everything. Which is a little unusual, but that probably means, oh, I don't have them on the other charts, but that probably means that the 5-year is the one that's in charge here, not the 10-year, right? That's what it usually tends to be. You think it'll completely, it could. So I think the reason that we saw some of what we did yesterday was because of the auction. We do have a 30-year auction today. I haven't seen anything too interesting in the 30-year, but you know, when we have auctions, there does tend to be a little bit of like kind of more difficult absorption market makery kind of behavior. So it could be, that could be going on from that. Either way, I think I kind of identified from the very beginning a situation that it probably wasn't very good for me to trade, right? I'm just so shocked that when I went and I tried doing it with a sim accounts that it was so bad, you know? Like, it shouldn't be that bad. It should just be kind of a wash. Yeah, well, and you get this kind of shift when the Europeans close, right? I've found lately that like it seems like that what the Europeans are doing contradicts what's going on with the US markets. And so it's like you think something should be happening and it doesn't happen, and then the London market closes and then the move that you want happens. You know? I've seen that happen a lot. Like my best period of trading was just after COVID. I guess part of it was because it was just after COVID, but a large factor behind me doing as well in that market period, I think, was also that I was able to trade that last 30 minutes of the London Open, which I can't do anymore, but stick around for another 30 minutes. I did really well in that additional 30 minutes. Like it really helped everything to be able to stick around longer. Because before we would have had to, before when we still went into the office, we were stopping the stream at 8:30, right? We only ran it for 2 hours. But don't worry. Tomorrow is going to be a different game, right? Hopefully, well, I don't know. Hopefully we'll be able to find some opportunity in it. It'll be hard because the market will be fast, right? And I'm going to have to take on a lot of risk to do it. Yeah, we did. Well, we did trade 03 half again. Sure. It wasn't, oh, there was 2000. I wouldn't say it's too significant yet. Was somebody did go short earlier? I think so. I don't know. I still think it's random. And maybe it's going to do with something here. There's 1700 and 1600 on the other side of it. I can't do non-farms. So you know what? That's been some of my worst days too. So, well, yeah, maybe that would be the case, Uzi. If I had taken it live, then I would definitely be like, oh, it's the market makers that did it. It was the... they're trading some okay size there at 03. They're trading some real size there at 03. No, my position is that if we don't, if there's not like new information out in the market, just to say something that you could know that would predict what the order flows that were today, there can be situations where nobody really has that advantage, and when that happens, the market maker is the one that's in the advantage, and it doesn't matter what you do as a retail trader, you're going to lose money. That's my position. I would say that it is. I think that yesterday was a little bit different in the beginning of it, but at the end of this, it's really is coming out to like what it was yesterday, right? Where it's like you're looking for it to break out on the top, and then it just comes back. And then I wouldn't surprise me if people started to think that it's going to break out to the bottom and then see it come all the way back up. Because it seems to me like that's how they do it. Is like, okay, so you're the retail trader, right? And you're trying to predict what the market maker is going to do. So you see, oh, the market maker, he's going to push it down. So what do? You wait. You say you don't buy it. And then because you don't buy it, he just keeps it moving it down further and further and further until enough retail traders jump on. And then what does he do? And then he turns it around, right? And that's why you always lose. Well, we're at VWAP right now. So if we get back to like 111, then we're definitely in the like, okay, it did end up mean reverting in the end. And because remember, I said the place where I said I could maybe have justified taking a trade with my live account was 3.96. It would have been a slow and tough ride, and I would be sitting in a trade for over an hour and only be up 12 ticks. So I think I'm glad that I didn't do it, but you know, the for us to go to 4%, that would be kind of the trade that in the end we felt like should happen. It's just that it's like it happens so much more slowly and with so many more turns than you'd think it should. You think you'll give the old college try at 0.5? We'll see. You know, if they were really gonna like retrace, like if they were gonna go to like a single print retrace sort of a thing, they'd go to 30, right? If there's still a buyer, I kind of wonder if there ever was. Because look at the volume. Anyways, you know, I gotta go, guys. I will see you tomorrow. Don't miss it. Non-farms is gonna be crazy. In the meantime, stay excellent.